I am not going to hold our guest on the line for too much longer. We have been blessed to have. I met this man probably almost 20 years ago, incidentally at an event, and would peripherally see him at different events, political events over the years that I got invited to because for a short period of time, his wife was my representative based on where I lived in Chicago, long time ago. And so now, as time has gone by and I've been able to see him at different events and say, hey, Bob, how are you? And all that good stuff. We're fortunate enough to have with us this morning Bob Creamer, an American political consultant and community organizer and all that other stuff that guys like Bob have made a career of. Good morning, Bob, and welcome to Choose Views.
Good to be with you.
How are you? I'm good, man. Good to hear your voice. How you been doing?
Well, we're doing okay. We're going to see how well we're doing on the 5th of November. And it's 4 weeks from today.
4 weeks from today. 4 weeks from today. Well, thanks for being with us. And I know we want to talk a little bit about your latest book, Nuts and Bolts, The Formula for Progressive Electoral Success. We'll talk a little bit about that. But one of the things that you guys, and Bob's book came out in April of this year, and he's been talking with a variety of different people about it. You really should go get it. If you whether you're a political junkie or not, if you just want to have a good textbook, if you will, or manual on how to get stuff done, how to be effective, frankly. I mean, what Bob talks about can be laid over so many other parts of your life because you talk about it from the position of executing the goals and the plans that sometimes many political groups leave out. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what was sort of the genesis of the book?
Well, the main point of the book is that execution is the key to our success. And not just great ideas, execution. And, the great Green Bay Packers coach, Vince Lombardi, who used to have the best teams around, right? He would start the season every year by picking up a football and say, gentlemen, this is a football. We're going to talk about the blocking and tackling. We're going to practice that. That's what we have to do in politics. I mean, the fundamental principles of good political communication and great political organizing, that's what this book addresses. And he argues that getting stuff done is the name of the game. So, I think the Harris-Walz campaign and most fronts are just doing a marvelous job of that. We've got a bunch of other campaigns doing the same thing, and the country's on a knife's edge. We could either slip toward fascism and authoritarianism, or within 3 months, we could have the most progressive period in modern American history.
Yeah,
pretty remarkable choice.
That's such a very specific, and you've kept it very, very plain. We could either go over here or we could go over here. It's not much wavering between the two choices when it comes to what execution will get done for. So let me ask you this, Bob: why do we miss execution? And I'm going to say this in the broader sense, but also in your space politically. Why is it missed? And that may be a weird question, but I think you know what I'm saying.
Well, I think a lot of people think that politics is about spinning out great strategies or thoughts on what other people ought to be saying or that kind of thing. When it's really about taking those fundamentals and getting them done. And, part of it is, of course, some people think politics is kind of about poetry or something. It is to some extent, but it's really about that which is not measured is not done. It's about numbers. It's about one at a time finding our votes and getting them out. And I think of elections, for instance, kind of like a treasure hunt. Our job is to find enough votes to win and then get them to the polls. And great campaigns have, by the time election day comes, have a list, the names, addresses, phone numbers of the people who are going to be our votes that we need to win, and then we concentrate on making sure they go to the polls over and over and over, knocking on their doors and so forth.
So local baseline elbows deep politics and work. Sounds like also what you're talking about, and that's people rolling up their sleeves and doing the basic work more so than the glamorous work. Is that true?
Absolutely, and it's also true that a lot of people think, well, it's about what they do. How's the candidate going to do? How's it? This election particularly is about what we all do. It's about all of us can help turn votes out. Right here in Illinois, we have Operation Swing State that my wife, Jan Schakowsky, and the State Democratic Party and lots of others are involved in. People every weekend go into Wisconsin, Michigan, and knocking on doors in large, and hundreds of them going every weekend. You can go to their website and sign up if you want to go. And that's getting something done in these swing states that are needed to win the elections. I don't want to leave people with the impression that it's all about politics is somehow all about just a rational argument about things. If there's any one lesson I want to communicate in terms of the messaging, it comes from Maya Angelou, the poet, who said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. It's about how people feel that we're trying to communicate. We need to connect with them emotionally. And when it comes to the persuasion part of politics, there are two groups of people whose behavior can be changed by a campaign. Persuadables, that is people who are going to vote but are switch hitters, undecided, and mobilizables, people who would vote for our candidate, but we just got to get them out. That first crew, what we're doing is communicating qualities about the candidate that make people feel good about themselves. It's just like a love affair. You're not trying to convince the other person that you're the greatest thing in the world. You're trying to communicate that with you, they feel good about themselves. That's true politics too. And
do you think? No, Bob, I was going to ask you. Do you think that the Harris-Walz campaign, or let me ask the question this way: why do you think that they have been good to this point at executing?
Well, one thing is that when she became the candidate, she inherited an apparatus that had been built over months and months to conduct field operations. And there were when she became the candidate, or the putative candidate, she was blessed with already 1,200 organizers in the 7 battleground states and 270 offices, all set up and ready to roll, and a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So that's part of it. And she infused that apparatus with lots of volunteers who are people she generated energy from too. When she got in the race, there was this explosion of volunteer activity and excitement and inspiration, and that's key. So, on the mobilization side, by the way, this is what I'm talking about now is that door-to-door game. There are a lot of messages that help mobilize people to vote, but the two that are most important are inspiration and hope. If you can't get them to hope, you can't get them to vote. You got to have a sense that we have real possibilities of great things we can do. People need to feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves, and that they themselves can play a significant role. Inspiration is important. The other is the message that I won't get off your porch or your phone until you vote. Banging away. We know empirically that, and in studies, that'll increase likely voter turnout by a big percentage. And so that's a way we can all contribute to make this a victory.
So but part of it is being relentless in the pursuit of finding those voters, knowing where they are, then going out and getting them, and then actually from a momentum standpoint. And now you're a sports guy to some extent. You use the momentum of adding one more player to the team. And that momentum is catching. People want to be a part of that. It's like if there's a crowd walking down the street, you're going to look out the window and say, "What are they doing?" And if it impacts you emotionally, you might open the door and step outside and say, hey, I want to be a part of that. That's what I see and feeling when it comes to the Harris Walz campaign. And tell me what your thoughts are about this question. At the beginning, to your point about she inherited certain things, but she was a part of that, and she took the baton and kept going. But did you have any concern that the feeling, the energy, that first 2 weeks was going to fade and go away? What were your observations early on?
Well, that's always a concern. I'll be honest with you. I was very concerned that if President Biden bowed out of the race, we'd have a real bloodbath going with a bunch of people contesting for the nomination and it divided the party in a terrible way. She did a great job of organizing the transition. I mean, she was on the phone to 100 people the day that it was announced and really lined up all the folks who were potential contenders to support, including, by the way, our governor in Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, is a wonderful, wonderful potential candidate one day, I think. In any case, the thing that she also generated then was social proof. Social proof's a big deal in persuading people to take action. Bandwagon. It really matters. When people see their neighbors doing something, when people see other people doing something, they're much more prone to do it themselves. And because after all, human beings are pack animals. Like all pack animals. Most all the creatures we all of our dogs and stuff are all pack animals. Cats are not. Cats are, dogs have masters, cats have staff, and so that's the way it is.
Bob, don't let that go. That's a book title there, right? This. Just write that down. There's a book.
That's a very good point.
That's your next book, man. I'm telling you, that's a catchy one. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I suppose you're right. Unfortunately, I'm not really. Well, I'm an expert at having pets. That I am. We got our two dogs are Franklin and Eleanor.
Oh, right on.
And their brother and sister. Franklin, unfortunately, has a degenerative neurological condition, so he's paralyzed in his back legs. And people said to me, you sentenced him to that when you named him Franklin. And I said, what? Franklin Roosevelt did a great job as a paralyzed president, and this dog will make big contributions as a paralyzed dog, and he is. So there.
That's right. No, it's a great statement, and in terms of how we do sort of lean into the thing that is exciting and that people are energized by, and I, like you, I was concerned that if we had this sort of brokered period of time, that it could be it would have been hugely problematic. And
yes.
if right out of the gate people didn't get the message that Vice President Harris was able to organize and put things together fairly quickly. This was an already moving train, and they had one shot to grab on and keep it going, and they did it. I think out of the gate, that should tell a lot of people who might be on the fence, this group can get stuff done, because they were able to your point, Bob, execute. And the convention was a phenomenal example
Brilliant.
Of how in 30 days, basically, they got this thing moving. I mean,
it was brilliant. It was the best convention. I've been to every convention since except one since '84. That was the best convention I've ever been to. That was marvelous. That's
amazing. And I've only been to one, but from everybody like yourself who's really been doing this for a longer time, have said the same thing, and you weren't being politically biased or partisan, just flat out what you saw and the nuts and bolts of it, frankly. I got to ask you two questions, and I know we're going to wrap up. I don't want to keep you all morning. I could talk with you forever, because you just have always been that guy when I've seen you, that I got to turn around and talk back to Bob, and then the next thing you know, somebody else is talking to you. But Bob, why did you write this book, Nuts and Bolts, the formula for progressive electoral success? What did you say? Now's the time for me to write this book.
Well, I wanted to assure, I wanted to write a book that we could use for training, that we could use for getting people focused on what I believed was necessary, both to win this fall and in the future. I actually talked to one publisher who said, well, I can get it on the docket for this fall, Well, that wouldn't do any good. So we got one that could get it out earlier. And because I feel very strongly that knowing the fundamentals and executing them is so critical to our success. And, it ain't just, this is not just a game, right? I mean, this is about the future of our society, and more than ever, it seems to me, the future of humanity is really at stake here. I mean, we've never been forced to make decisions of more consequence than we're making in the 21st century. The political decisions we're going to make, and the next generation or two will make, could determine whether the values and political structures we have keep up with the exploding technological capacity, AI, nuclear power, nuclear weapons, or whether, and we truly create a democratic society where, everybody shares our common success, or whether we become an evolutionary dead end. Because, we're going through a gauntlet where that's the question. And the ability of progressives to prevail in the electoral battles of the next few decades, both here in the United States and around the world, I think could determine that outcome.
Yeah.
So I want people to understand those principles and to put them into practice.
I want to give another shout out to another book that you wrote years ago that has relevance today. And the reason I want to give shout out to this book is because it's something that your wife, Representative Schakowsky, always talks about. And that your book title is Listen to Your Mother, Stand Up Straight. And the reason that one's always been one that puts a smile on my face is because as progressives, we have to stand up straight. We have to stand for what we believe in. We have to be unyielding in the principles that we believe in and why we believe in. And you just said it at the end of your answer. But just take a moment, and I know it's one of your previous books, but just take a moment and talk about why that book and its content is so still relevant today in our political conversation.
Well, for one thing, most people in America agree with the progressive values that we share. I mean, we're not a faction. We're most Americans. And that's why the Republicans want to prevent most Americans from voting, or at least a lot of them. People don't follow hand wringers. They follow people who believe in things. And as I say, most people share those beliefs. If you just talk about, on a policy level, the gun violence agenda, 90% of the population. You talk about, if you say to people, well, billionaires should be paying a tax rate that's higher than their secretaries. Yeah. I mean, most people agree totally with that. And the more we talk, by the way, in populist terms like that, the better we do in factory towns that have been denuded of people, of jobs by these big corporations outsourcing. Donald Trump has capitalized on people's feeling of being disrespected, being passed by in a lot of America. I mean, our values are really those things that they will ascribe to if we talk about them to them in very clear terms and clear and concrete, not abstract kind of notions or slogans. But, what do you think? Should we have the child tax credit? Yeah. You're damn right we should. I mean, everybody, they'll say that in a second. And so, among other things, it's because it's a winning message to be strongly, proudly articulating a progressive vision. And, one of the qualities that very great political leaders have is vision. And because as Yogi Berra said, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there.
Yeah. And
people want leaders with vision. And we need to paint that vision, not just the downside of what might happen if, if Trump and again win, but the vision of what we could create if we win.
Right. Something to vote, not just to vote against, but something to vote for. And that's why I like Vice President Harris's phrase about turning the page and turning to a new chapter, because that's about where we're about going to the next and going forward. So, Bob, it's always great to talk with you wherever the venue, whatever the venue is. And I appreciate you taking time to be part of the show this morning. It's a joy to talk with you and just let's sit back and listen.
Thanks so much for having me. Anytime, my friend. Okay.
Absolutely. We appreciate it. Thanks so much, Bob, for being with us, and make it a great week. And I know that we'll talk soon. Maybe right after the election, we'll have you on again and we can chat about the vision and our forward movement. Does that sound okay?
Absolutely. Happy to. Okay.
All right. Be well. Have a great day, Bob.
You too.
Bye now.